Chuck, we'll let you wrap it up. Tell us a little bit about working with Carol. Huh? About working with Carol? Yeah. A little bit of his mannerism.
Carol Shelby was a very complex person. Everything you've heard about him probably was true. It's all different angles, but to work with him, he was in the factory, our offices every day pretty much, unless it was off traveling somewhere. He came to the races for the Trans Am races, and of course went to all the international races when they were doing that. So he was always there and paid attention, but he sort of, when he had people working in certain tasks and so forth, he sort of turned things over to them and then didn't really meddle very much. I mean, he might say something, offer a suggestion or verse an opinion, but he never hovered over his employees and managed them into doing something. But he was a very persuasive person. If he wanted you to do something, you ended up getting the idea. It was sort of enjoyable to work with, fun to watch and fun to be around. And in the later years, when we had a lot of gatherings, there's a museum in Boulder, Colorado, where we had Shelby people got together with, and Carol was usually there in December of each year for over several years. Jack Sears was one of the British drivers that drove the GT40s and the Cobras would come over for that, and he was always very respectful of the people that worked for him in those early years, and he was very thoughtful and kind to them, and never had anything bad to say about the group, because we had such a tremendous shop full of people that were knowledgeable and interesting and dedicated, worked hard and worked well together. And even eventually the Cobra guys and the Mustang guys got along pretty good. Eventually. Everybody met their objectives, so that was, GT40s won the Milan's a couple times, and Shelby's Mustangs won their races. They won with a 65. We only made the GT350 our models 1 year in 65. We won in 65 the national championship, but they also won in 66 and 67 with independent guys running the same car. What we built in 66 was Trans Am cars. In 67 we built Trans Am cars for sale. Had a team which we won the championship with. The 65 car went a long way. So, and Carol was always very supportive of everything.
Okay.
On that hard,
Thank you. Well, Gail, how would you like to tell us about the AACA?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, geez, that's it?
I gotta get AACA started. We could be here till midnight.
Give us a quickie.
I learned to know Lee AACA very, very well. He was in our place almost daily, a lot of times by himself. As an example, we had a no travel edict in the company. You couldn't travel any place. And he was there, he was leaving, and he turned to me and he said, Gail, are you going to the Frankfurt, Germany Auto Show? I said, no, Lee, we can't travel. He said, I want you to go. Take your wife and go to Frankfurt. In fact, I want you to go to all the auto shows in the world. Nationwide. I said, I can do that. I said, you want me to give you some feedback? No, I don't need any feedback. I just want you to go. And so, if AACA didn't like you, you were gone. He was tough but fair. And as an example, He came over one day, usually with a group, but once in a while by himself. And he came in and he said, Gail, I just left the board of directors. And I told him I was going to increase Mercury sales next year by 1%. That's 100,000 vehicles. So you got to do something. So we put, this isn't the end of the story. So we put together some color combinations, wheels and stuff. But we had the idea of putting a window in this big C-pillar in the back. And we called it the opera window. And he said, I like that. He said, that's a new model. I get more money for it. And he said, let's go, that's great. I said, before you go, I said, we got a couple more overlays. So I brought out an oval. And he said, we're not putting that on a Mercury. We're going to put that on a Lincoln. Go get a Lincoln. So we got a Lincoln. We put the overlay on. Great. Put it in the system. So a couple months went by, and the vice president of manufacturing called me, and he said, yeah, we're having a hell of a time with that damn oval. So we can't get it to fit the pillar, sliding off the back. And I said, you got to be able to do a fixture to make it fit perfectly from side to side every time. Yeah, okay, we'll look at it. And he called me again. I forget what the problem was that time. But he called me the third time. I went down to the pile plant, and he said, I know you like it. I know Mr. AACA wants it, but we are not going to do it. And I said, well, Don Jesner. I said, Don, Mr. AACA will be in our building at 3 o'clock. You come and tell him you're not going to do it. Said, before you leave, clean your desk out. We have open windows and windows.
Thank all four of you for being here. Do we have a round of applause for them?
You want to tell one more?
Yeah.
You want to hear one more story?
Yeah.
I have more people say, I did already talk tonight. How well did you know Henry Ford? Well, I knew him real well. In fact, every time he would come, he'd always say, hi, George, hi, Gail, hi, Frank. Every time, he knew everybody. He was very friendly. But anyway, I got a call one day, and his secretary said, he had his office downtown Detroit. He said, Mr. Ford, I want you to come down and talk about a design project he wants to talk to you about. I said, okay. And of course, I got in the car. Immediately I went there. His secretary said, Gail, he's not going to be here for 3 hours. He said, you want to wait? You want to come back? What do you want to do? I said, I don't want to do any of that. I said, he said, let me take you up and show you his office. So we went up and he looked at it. He had a beautiful office in the top floor of the towers. And we walked around and he said, I can tell you what he wants. I said, you tell me that. He said, well, Mr. Ford has racehorses over in London. He wanted to talk to you about a new design for the jockey uniform. I went back and I got hold of a real good designer. And I said, go to the library and look and see what they wear. I need 4 designs. and he did a beautiful job. Put them on beautiful boards, all in color. And I took them down to Mr. Ford's office, and naturally he wasn't there. So I left him, and the secretary said, "Which one do you like?" I said, "I like that one." That's it, I'll tell you. So months went by, never heard a word. So one day I was in the men's room, he came in, he put his hand on my shoulder, he said, "Gail," he said, "I should have gotten back to you." He said, "I liked all the designs you gave me for the jockey, but I used the one you recommended, and the horse is doing fantastic."
Thank you very much, Gail. I think we could probably talk with these gentlemen all night long. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a little synopsis of the rest of the night. We're going to ask a couple of questions from the audience, and we only have time for 2 or 3. And then we're going to give these gentlemen a chance to go back, and then we're talking to the back area here where the motorcycles are. Ford Performance has a tent set up. We're going to have poster giveaways, a chance to maybe ask a few other questions individually, sign some autographs and all that good thing with all the folks that are here tonight. So please, when we're done, give them a chance to go back there. If you want to purchase a book to be autographed, go up to our retail shop and have it purchased there and bring it back down. And that's how we're going to conclude. I'm really, really grateful to these folks, these gentlemen, for being here. Like Art, I was at the World's Fair as well. I was in a baby buggy, have no memory of it, but I tell people I was there, it's true. And also, as John attested, I've owned an old Mustang, a vintage Mustang since 1985. And I can attest to the feeling when you drive that car. It's really hard to have a bad day when you're driving a Mustang. That's my statement. Thank you, gentlemen, for everything you contributed. Nancy Gates has our microphone. Like I said, I wish we had time to do this all night. We're going to do just a couple of quick questions. Show of hands. Gentleman in the red shirt. Nancy, can you take the microphone, please?
This question is for Art. What was the thought when you designed the Bullet, where you came up with that idea in 2001? What inspired you to do that?
What were we thinking?
Yes.
Well, to be honest with you, when I took over the program, as I mentioned, was losing money. And so we couldn't figure out why the revenue, the price we were getting was actually less than what the price was for a Focus on average. And the issue was that they were pricing the car versus other competitive cars with no idea of the brand value. So we said, well, there's something wrong with that picture, right? And we've done a bunch of research, I mentioned, going and talking to people. And it became obvious that Steve McQueen, in that era, is really what you see in a lot of the movies, and is sort of if there was an iconic time of Mustang, it would be that time frame, right? And I asked our designer at the time, which was Sean Tunn, to do torque thrust wheels. I always loved torque thrust wheels. He did such a wonderful job. We said, do the rest of the car. He said, what are you talking about? I said, this car that's on my wall, this green thing, I want one of those. And I actually own green cars, so I can make fun of British sports cars. I have one, but I have a green Mustang too. And so he came back and did the show car we took to LA, right? And we wanted, we couldn't get Ford Division to buy into it. In fact, we couldn't really get it formally approved by the company. And so we had a bunch of people sort of do this as snakewood, really a offline operation. Everybody's breaking all the rules. We used Ford racing parts. We did a lot of creative things. I think Scott Hogue has a book coming out. We'll talk about some of the details of it. I think at the Hershey show, right? It's the Hershey show, by Carlisle. So that's going to be in a couple weeks. So I'm sure they'll have a lot more of the details. But as we were doing that, working with the McQueen family maybe was not the greatest because of the lawyers. But the spirit, you could tell as we developed the vehicle actually on drag strips, and actually on the internet. I had most of the engineers doing web blogs. with owners and forums, different forums to find out like the exhaust sound. And we mapped as much as we could, we mapped that car. And then later we found out that was a NASCAR open pipe car, right? The guy, the movie guy who'd done the sound said, "You guys must have been liking nuts. What were you thinking?" You know, and but we didn't know any better, so we tuned the exhaust. It took a long time to get the exhaust sound, but we wanted to get every detail of that car as close as we could, so it would be a complete experience. We didn't want paint tape. We wanted a real car that's standalone as an integral and a high integrity kind of product. And so one that would, really, frankly, I didn't think we would be sitting here waiting for 2019. I have to say, I didn't expect that. But we knew that there was a nerve there that we could touch after we started developing it, just the reaction we were getting on the internet. And Ford Division wasn't really with us. We had some air cover at the very top of the house. But people started coming into the dealer saying, "Where is this car?" And they saw it in LA show, but they also saw it through the internet forums. And so they would come in and the dealers were, I was getting all kinds of calls from dealers. "What are you guys doing? You're crazy. This doesn't exist. You can't order it." I said, "Sure it does. It's an option. It's a GT option. It's right there in the catalog if you go look. And if you had just read your email, you would have seen it." And it sold out. It sold out. So we knew we had something, and that was a labor of love putting that car out. A lot of love in the details, particularly.
The only mistake was you didn't keep it all cream.
Well, okay, so that's a long story. So I have to say, I thought God made them green, right? They should have been green. But in the end, when you're trying to get a bunch, because remember, there's a lot of people who don't know that part about the story. They don't know that that's important. And they literally, the marketing guys, and particularly, didn't understand any of that, and they thought nobody else would either.
Wow.
They really, no, I'm serious. They just didn't. It never occurred to them that was that important.
They want to get the volume.
They wanted blue. They wanted red. They wanted a bunch of colors, right? And so in the end, I had to give in on black relatively early, but blue. Sorry for the people of blue ones. Blue was a tough sell for me, and eventually I was forced to give in. In the end, forced to give in.
Right.
But we love those cars, and as I mentioned, the Mach 1 saved the car, but there would be no Mach 1 if there wasn't a bullet.
I have a question. My question is a contemporary one about decision-making in Ford, and it has to do with something I heard on the news regarding decision to sell Mustangs and trucks and suspend sedan cars sales are in production. Is it true? And if it is, as designers and so involved with Ford, what's your take on that?
Yeah, Gail, what's your take on that?
We all voted. John was the question. We knew what Gail's answer was.
Well, the corporate take is that research shows that our small cars are not selling, and in fact, most people's small cars aren't selling. Research millennials are supposedly going to showrooms and wanting utilities. They choose cars like the CR-V or the Escape more than they want our Fiesta or Focus. So the company said, well, why are we investing funds in things that people don't want? Now, the question is, if you ask people what they wanted, what's the old adage, you want a faster horse. And why we did Mustang is we just believe we have the right product. So at the top of the house at Ford, they believe that this is a smart move. There's a lot of people that love the entry-level Fords, and then we get into an early Ford, and then we move up the line, and that's how you become a Ford family. There's a lot of consternation over it, but at the top of the house, the company believes this is the best investment. We don't have tax dollars to invest. We're still our own company, and we're paying off debt. And we believe for the future, if this is really where everybody's going, This is why it's so important to keep driving your Mustang, and when they go by a utility, which you can go this to them. Because, I mean, I have a couple of Ford, my wife drives an Escape, and it's a different feeling. Yeah, the utilities are great, they're Swiss Army knives, you put all kinds of stuff in them, and they do lots of things, but they don't give the feeling of what these guys have built. And I think Ford is a unique company because of that. So we're hoping they have the right mix, and thank God they said Mustang remains. That's all.
Well, let me say a couple of things. Yeah, one, because of you all, the Mustang is core, right? Mustang is core. That's not going anywhere. The other thing is, if you think about the Focus and the Escape are structurally the same vehicle. So if things change, we can bring the Focus back. Now, the other thing is that announcement was really meant for the United States. So Europe, China will continue with those sedans. And we have, because those markets are not caught SUV fever to the extent that the U.S. has.
Correct.
But I don't think you should view it as a negative thing. It's a business reality. Frankly, the company has to invest in the future of electrification. Electrification has changed the game when it comes to energy efficiency. So it's not like you're giving up lots of energy efficiency when you go to these SUVs like you did in the 70s. You know, there's a big difference. There's not such a big difference now. And also, in the end, we have to develop new mobility solutions because frankly, self-driving cars are coming. And
I blame the parents.
It is not.
I blame the parents.
And that's not a bad.
Because you took them to soccer practice instead of buying them a Mustang.
Manual transmission Mustang.
Self-driving cars are not a bad thing for us because think of all those dummies that run into us.
Yeah, the ones that are
Driving
best.
cars. There'll be a lot less of that kind of stuff going on. So self-driving cars will be safer.
Yeah, the bigger question will be what happens when we keep Mustang. And think of it, you guys, Mustang has for years been a niche product at Ford. We were just also there. And now we're core. What happens when we think about Mustang in a different way? Maybe, what if you had a Mustang station wagon or electric Mustang or one of those things? We try to prepare you all. So we have to think about we're guardians of the brand. So if those things have to change, we'll let that happen, but we're going to fall on our swords for this beautiful.
Absolutely. Just like we did in the past.
Yep.
So, we fought a good fight and we had to fight that.
And I'll be retired.
But I think in the end, there's a lot of practical reality of what the company's doing, and it's not a bad thing. I think you have to reinvent yourself periodically, and that's healthy.
Well, and Mustang's done that. We have done it. I mean, you guys were the ones that forced us to build this insane muscle car that Mustang really was never, when Gail did that car, that was a muscle car.
Yeah.
And you forced our hand, and now,
He forced
Dave Parasak, thanks a lot, Chuck. Because Dave Parasak hates things named Hellcat. And he, why we're doing a GT500, a Shelby GT500, we are doing a Shelby. They don't. Is because of you, and you're forcing us to turn this just regular car that everybody can afford into this insane muscle car. So the glory years, the lesson here is forget all these wonderful cars from the 60s are awesome, and they're the best things we did. But right now is the glory years of muscle cars. So if you want in on that game, you can't buy anybody's car out here because they will not sell it to you. Buy a new one until the government says we can't drive those on public roads anymore. Because they are just awesome.
They'll be on the roads forever.
I hope so.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah. That's a great state. A lot of people ask is Thunderbird coming back, and there are so many people at the company that absolutely love the Thunderbird brand.
Yeah.
And I know the guys, there's so many people that understand the value of that brand too. We have great brands. And the great thing is, we don't call them the XR4 GLS1 XG.
We used to.
Yeah, we used to. We had an Exrati one time, yeah, we had an Exrati. But Mustang means something to us, and thank God we have. Lincoln is learning that lesson with,
Yeah.
and now they have Continental and stuff.
names.
Yeah, names, I think you guys really connect with that, and with certain things we don't want to change, so keep your fingers crossed. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about the GT500? I mean, I know it's under.
Yes, I could, but I really like working at Ford. We showed a shadow of it just recently on the internet. The design is unique, so it's a different beast than the GT350, which we now sell. We really tried to honor Carroll's legacy with our current car, and we're bringing people into the brand because of the Shelby GT350, the Voodoo motor, and I don't know if you've ever driven one of those cars, but they just the hairs on your arms stand up. So the 500 is there to bring back the punch in the face of what Mustang. Don't mess with me, what you guys were talking about. This is a serious car for real serious people. It's not going to look like a 350. It's not going to act like a 350. Although I can tell you that unlike some previous early iterations when I was at SVT and we built the Shelby GT500 then, it wasn't so much a track car. We're going to incorporate more of what Carroll wanted as trackability into the 500 that we didn't do before.
Right, and they're saying what, over 700 horsepower?
Again, I really. A lot of you people are on social media and a lot of things we do. At
Oh, we all have our phones turned on.
Oh, boy. I can't tell. I mean, I wish I could. It's really exciting. And we just had the Mustang Club of America come to Dearborn and sit with our team. We showed them a peek into the future. And I can tell you this, that the board members that we brought in loved what we had for the 500. They loved what we have for a feature car that we're coming after the Bullet. But they like what we're doing, and eventually we might have to take Mustang into another realm off the S550 and make a new Mustang, because you guys are, the demand on this car, what you want out of this Mustang is so high that we're pushing the envelope.
This isn't fake news now, is it?
This is not fake news. No, not fake news. I wish I could tell you more, but I can tell you this. More is coming and sooner than you think. So don't wait, you don't have to wait for that we're going to give you the Chinese water torture treatment on this guy. That's all I can tell you. Really.
Thank you.
Because I have a mortgage.
Maybe one more question here, and then we're going to move these gentlemen back and we can get a little more personal. Over here on the side.
I can talk about Gail, the name Mustang, does that stem from the story you told a little while ago about the jockey and the horse? The name Mustang. The name Mustang. The name Mustang, where did that stem from?
It came from the horse. It did not come from the airplane.
Really?
So,
But did it stem from that?
Uncle has been asked that umpteen times.
Was it because of Henry Ford liking horses and racing with the jockey?
I don't think so. No, it was, it was J. Walter Thompson, the advertising people.
John Najar did Mustang 1, and he did love the airplanes. He was a lot of engineers at Ford are into aeronautics, and he wanted the P-51 Mustang name to be put on the car. If you'll notice the Mustang 1 concept, was always had a horse. So what happened was he was unable to convince them, and I believe when he took it up the ladder at Ford, his boss said a word that you'll never find in the dictionary.
Yeah.
He said, it just sounds too airplane-y. And we didn't want it to be like that. We just believed the car had that feeling of the Wild West, and the word Mustang, because that's so American, we believe it was a better word than a warplane. And when I was at SVT, we always wanted to name our cars with we had Sidewinder, we were going to call one of our SVTs, and they're always war stuff, and we just thought at the company, the Mustang horse It's better. So from day one, forget all the stuff you're hearing about the plane. From day one, after Najar was told no, it's always been a horse. And the only thing people argue about, what was the cougar when you guys wanted it? But design wanted a cougar. Design wanted a cougar. And that's why you'll notice when Gail,
With cats in the grounds.
Gail had cats in there. And the reason I had to put them in a corral, you know how cats are, they just won't stay anywhere.
The name didn't change until just before production.
They still, if you look at some of the early pictures of Gail's drawings and Joe Burrow's, you'll see cougar script right on the car.
And a cat in the grill.
And a cat on the grill. And then we had to put a horse in, and Gail had a great story about that horse. And then which way does the horse run? And Gail, I tried to,
Left. Took 4 pages.
took me 4 pages in Mustang Times to explain why I was running. To the west. So I just think a lot of people are confused about that. Never did we want it to be an airplane. The cat thinks too.
So when we found out, let me clarify. When we found out it was gonna be a horse, we tried to draw horses, and we couldn't draw horses. We had a Hungarian clay modeler who was a horseman, and he said, I will do the horse for you. And he actually did a quick sketch, and we said, but it has to go on that cougar envelope. He says, okay. He said, I will carve the first one out of wood. And he did. And that horse has never changed.
Great way to end our discussion here. Thank you so much. Can I have a round of applause for these folks? Thank you so much for helping us kick off our exhibit in Grandstand. We are truly grateful. It's been magic.
Gail's book is coming out in August.
Yeah. Thank you to the AACA for doing this. You guys have done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
This is Pam from NortheastWheelsEvents.com at the unveiling of the new exhibit at the AACA Museum in Hershey, Pennsylvania, the Mustang. For more cool events like this, make sure you check NortheastWheelsEvents.com, SoutheastWheelsEvents.com, UKWheelsEvents.com, and while you're there, post and share your events. Meanwhile, check out the rest of the videos in this series. It's worth it. See you guys at the show.